Narrator, slow, calm, cinematic tone. There's a side of us we never talk about. The side that watches others fall and feels something strange. The side that smiles politely but imagines chaos. The side that loves light but craves the darkness that hides behind it. Every human carries two forces, the one we show the world and the one we hide, even from ourselves. We spend our lives pretending to be pure, kind, and rational, but under the surface, something ancient breathes. We've built cities, religions, and laws, not to celebrate our goodness, but to protect ourselves from our own impulses. Because deep down, every civilization is a cage, and every cage exists because of what it's trying to contain. When you strip away the titles, the masks, the polite smiles, you're left with an animal that evolved to survive, not to be noble. And that animal still lives within us, whispering, waiting. That whisper is the dark side of human behavior. We all hear it. The jealousy when someone else succeeds. The thrill when someone fails. The hunger for control, for power, for dominance, dressed up as ambition. It hides behind good intentions, behind moral speeches, behind charity smiles. But it's there, always. And the truth is, we're terrified of it. We build stories to deny it. Religion, philosophy, psychology, all attempts to explain why good people do bad things. But maybe the better question is, why do bad things feel so natural? Every lie you've ever told, every secret thought you've buried, every emotion you've tried to suffocate, that's the shadow you live with. Carl Jung called it the shadow self. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And maybe that's what fate really is. Not some cosmic plan, but the collection of choices we refuse to acknowledge. Why do we lie? Because truth exposes vulnerability. Why do we manipulate? Because control feels safer than honesty. Why do we judge others? Because it distracts us from the war inside. Every cruel act in history, every betrayal, every war, every heartbreak wasn't born from monsters. It was born from people who convinced themselves they were right. That's the darkness, not violence, but justification. We love to think evil is rare, that it belongs to villains, criminals, or broken souls. But evil is ordinary. It's quiet. It's logical. It wears a uniform, smiles at dinner tables, sends polite emails. It lives in the small decisions, in the moments you say nothing while someone else suffers, in the excuses you make to protect your comfort, in the pleasure you feel when others fail to reach what you couldn't. That's the dark side, subtle, invisible, efficient. Neuroscientists talk about the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, that reacts to threat before logic does. Evolutionary psychologists say we inherited aggression from ancestors who needed it to survive. Sociologists say systems create monsters. But no theory changes the truth. The line between kindness and cruelty runs through every human heart. You see, the mind doesn't separate light from dark. It balances them. For every act of empathy, there's an instinct for self-preservation. For every moment of love, a capacity for jealousy. For every peace we create, a chaos waiting underneath. Piano grows slightly faster, as if tension is rising. We live in a world obsessed with image. We filter our flaws, polish our imperfections, hide our anger, bury our envy. But every time you deny a part of yourself, it doesn't disappear. It hides deeper. It grows teeth. It waits for the moment you're tired, hurt, or afraid. And it takes control. That's why good people snap. That's why kindness can turn cruel. Because repression is a pressure. And pressure always demands release. Music fades to silence. Have you ever noticed how people change when no one's watching? The boss who smiles in meetings but screams at home. The friend who preaches honesty but gossips in whispers. The person you love who knows exactly how to break you and sometimes does. These are not accidents. They're the shadows escaping. When people hurt others, it's often not because they want to, but because they don't know themselves well enough to stop. And that's the real danger, unconscious darkness. The moment you deny your flaws, they own you. But the moment you face them, you begin to master them. Soft wind sound, like breath through an empty corridor. But not all darkness destroys. Sometimes it protects. Your anger defends your boundaries. Your jealousy reminds you of what you value. Your fear keeps you alive. The problem begins when you let those instincts rule instead of serve. When you let pain guide your choices. When you call revenge justice and control love. Deep bass hits, faint echo of heartbeat. The darkest moments in history weren't caused by monsters. They were caused by ordinary people who looked away, who followed orders, who believed the end justified the means. We like to think we'd never do that we're better, smarter, more moral. But psychology tells a colder truth. In 1961, psychologist Stanley Milgram ran an experiment. He asked volunteers to deliver electric shocks to strangers if they answered questions wrong. The shocks weren't real, but the subjects didn't know that, and most of them obeyed. They pressed the switch, even as the screams grew louder. They did it because an authority told them to. Milgram's conclusion was terrifying. Ordinary people can commit extraordinary cruelty when responsibility is removed, and that is the darkest corner of human behavior. Not hatred, obedience. Because evil doesn't need fanatics, it only needs followers. Soft choir hum, like a slow lament. So where does that leave us? If every person carries a shadow, if morality is flexible, if empathy can fade, how do we live without fear of ourselves? Maybe by understanding. To look at your own darkness is not corruption. It's courage. To admit you have the capacity to hurt, lie, manipulate. That's the beginning of self-awareness. Because what you face, you control. What you deny, controls you. Music shifts to hopeful minor chords. The human mind is not good or bad. It's a battlefield of impulses. Every day, kindness fights fear. Empathy fights ego. Love fights power. And the side that wins depends on which one you feed. We've all felt it. The rush of anger when someone disrespects you. The satisfaction when someone who hurt you finally fails. You call it justice. But deep down, you know it's hunger. You can't kill that hunger. You can only recognize it. And once you do, it loses control over you. Light returns slowly in visuals. The darkness begins to fade. Maybe it's in saying, yes, I have a dark side, but it does not own me. Because you are not one thing. You are a universe, chaos and calm, cruelty and compassion, destruction and creation. The same hand that can strike can heal. The same voice that can lie can comfort. The same mind that can destroy can rebuild. Music rises, emotional crescendo. We fear darkness because we've been taught to. But the truth is, light only exists because of it. Without the contrast, there is no depth. Without the shadow, there is no soul. So stop running from your dark side. Face it, study it, understand it, because the moment you do, you'll see that it was never your enemy. It was your mirror. Soft silence, one breath, then a faint heartbeat. Narrator, calmly. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, and the awareness that can witness darkness can also choose light. Piano fades out slowly. Screen fades to black. On screen text, The Dark Side of Human Behavior. A MindScripted original. Because the mind you fear is the one you must understand.